Debs, back in the garage today working on a new project. I'm going to try to put a subwoofer into the Boxster. If you haven't seen my playlist over here, wherever that link is, check it out for the full audio upgrade that I've done so far, but it definitely lacks bass. So today we're gonna hopefully take care of that. Also, this is my first time shooting one of these videos with this Instamic, so hopefully the audio is improved now. Let me know what you think. If you're a YouTuber yourself and you want to increase your audio quality and this sounds good, check out the link over here for the Instamic. I showed how I set it up and how I use it. And of course we have Millie the shop dog over here who is going to be supervising. I decided to go with this Rockville 800 watt speaker. It is self-powered with its own amp. And this and all the other stuff that I'm using, I will link below in the description. I've got an 8-gauge install kit that came all smashed up. And this amp is gonna go behind the driver's seat. If I really like it, I might get a second one for the passenger seat, but we'll see. Fitting it, it actually fits back there well. This seat goes all the way back without touching it. Well, it's not all the way back, but this is my normal driving position. So if you look at it, you can see that all of the inputs are on one side. If I were to face that down, which would be right side up, it would be on the ground. Now this unit comes with little mounting brackets, and you can see that the brackets attach to both sides on the bottom and both sides on the top. But if I have it this way, only one of them comes back far enough to touch the wall. So in your typical installation, you're supposed to use that and have it lifted off the ground a little bit, I would assume, because there's no actual install instructions with this. But since I would not be able to attach it over here, I think my plan is just going to be to have it go this way, attach it on one side here, resting against the ground, and that's going to keep it from moving anywhere. So I'll show you what is actually on this. There's an auto turn on, so when it senses a signal coming in, it can turn itself on and off. You got your filters, boost, bass, gain, all of this stuff. Here is a jack. It comes with a little remote, so you can turn the volume up and down on it. And then two ways to connect it. You can either use the high input and connect it to speaker wires, or you can use a low input and use RCA jacks. It's got a fuse and then your power. And again, like everything on my channel, I've never done this before, so follow these instructions at your own risk. On the contrary, if this winds up helping you, please feel free to subscribe to the channel and like the video for me. So my plan starting off is to take some RCA cables and run them through the center console up to our head unit, and hopefully there's a spot on the back of the head unit for them. And then I'm going to run power also along the same line, and there is a spot in the footwell that I know about from the previous install to run the power all the way up to the battery up there. And then through the center console, I'm going to run the little turn-off switch. And by turn-off switch, I mean this little sub-level controller that is included with the amp. So the first thing I'm going to do for this install is remove the center console, and since that by itself would make a really good video, some people want to remove this for other things like painting it or whatever. So I'm going to shoot this in a separate video, put a link to it right up here. If you need to know how to do that, you can follow that instruction and then come back here. All right, now that you guys have the center console out, welcome back. And I can see my short shift kit that is from a GT3 that has been installed in here for me. So I guess the next thing I'm going to do is start tearing into this stuff so that I can figure out how to wire it. These little side panels just pop off. Just reach in here from the back and start popping them off. This is my little Renline magnetic phone mount that is actually super cool, easy to install. You just use the existing hardware here. It's just held in by one little screw right here, which needs to be tightened. So let's pop this one off. Get him out of the way, and this little trim piece just pops off. Come off, and this trim gently. Alright, so just with these out of the way, I can reach all the way under here, and I can actually see my fingers up through here. So I should be able to fish my wire back behind all that. I have a whole nother video, of course, on installing the head unit here, but it's really easy to get into it. Again, everything just pops off. I'm going to disconnect all of these, and same thing over here, pop this one off, and disconnect my USB and microphone over here. I'm going to go ahead and slide this out. So if you need any more detailed stuff on that, you can go check out that video. Okay, that was fun. Didn't take too long though, getting used to doing that. But on the back of my unit here, you can see that I have a front, left, right, rear, left, and then down here are my subwoofer ones. So I will be running to those subwoofer ones. And the crap ton of wires here, I'm gonna be fishing some line down from that through below the pedal. Get this out of the way. I don't know if I can still see it. I'll get you a light under there and show you that. All right, it's time to investigate our battery passage. So these just twist 90 degrees to take our battery cover off. And you can see I already have this aftermarket amp here wired in up here, so I'm just going to add the wiring for the new unit. All right, first I'm going to get into our battery here and remove the battery. I got to take this thing out all the way in order to run our wires behind it, so I'm just going to take the negative off first. Okay, tuck that down there so it doesn't touch again. And then the positive. And then these batteries have a little vent that you have to pull out. My battery tender out of the way. And it has a little handle. Oh, wait, first. There is one thing securing your battery that you have to undo. It's a 13 millimeter. Alright, so that releases that little panel that holds down the edge of the battery down there, and now we can just lift the battery out. Okay, now with the battery out of the way, you can see that this thick black cable here are the RCA cables that are coming from the back of my head unit, and they are routed around here. And they go in through this little rubber grommet through the firewall. So this is the same place I'm going to stick our power cable. So somebody in the comments of this Rockville amp on Amazon said that an 8 gauge was perfect for them. So I bought this 8 gauge kit. So this is what that kit comes with. This is my 8 gauge wire that I'm going to run to the positive terminal, and this is the ground wire that I will ground somewhere in the car. And then it comes with these RCA cables that I'll be using. So I'm just going to start with one end of the line here and stick it right through with this guy, and then we'll go find it. All right, here we are under the footwell. And there it is. That was easy to find. Get this back here so you can see it coming in through there, and it's just hanging down right here. But actually we don't need the power wire to go up into there. All we need is for it to get to the center console. So I think I can just stick it right in here. To make this a little easier, let me remove this panel. I think it pops off. Yeah, it just pops off. Sorry, it just pops off as well. Here you pull that back and it comes off. Oh yeah, that's very easy to see now. So now just gotta make sure that we don't interfere with any mechanical bits here. This side. And then stick it through the middle here. pull it through like this. Then put our panel back on. Have it out of the way. Okay, so this is what I ended up with. That's just the bare wire there. I routed it under this thing, around here, through there, behind this black panel. It is going up and out through the hole here. Now we do want to make sure we look at this. So this is our accelerator, and we do not want this wire to get tangled in it. But if you look at these wires right here next to it, you will see that they have a zip tie holding them nice and out of the way. So I'm going to add a zip tie right there, and then when it goes through the wall, I'm going to zip tie it to the other RCA cables that are coming out of there. So it should be nice and taut and not move. All right, you can see I added the zip tie right there. Now if we take a look at this sub, it has these little areas here for these little feet. The big hole has a little locator pin kind of thing that goes into it. And once that's in place, it aligns these little holes for some screws. And then you just screw in these little screws. And when this secures them, there's a spot here for a longer screw to screw into something solid and metal behind it to hold it in place. All right, I just prepared the ground wire and the positive both, and I'm just gonna stick them in here and tighten it down. Got those attached. So far so good. Now I think I'm going to try to wire the RCA cables through. All right, I just measured with this stuff. It comes with 20 feet of RCA cable, and I need 8 feet, just a little over 7 feet, so 8 to be safe, and that's gonna be way too much to try to stash, so I'm just gonna buy a shorter cable. All right, fresh back from Best Buy with a 3-meter RCA cable. So my goal here is to stick this in this mess of wires and drop it down. It was actually super easy to stick it in here and reach around the side with my other hand and grab it. Okay, so now I am just snaking it through the same path as the power wire. So this is the wire that came with the sub for our remote. So it is gonna plug in right here, and then I'm gonna do the same thing, run it through here and find a place to put this remote. So just because I don't want to go and buy a bunch more wire that's shorter than this one, I'm noticing that down here on this side, when I take the panel off, there's a ton of room for extra cable. So I think I'm gonna run it along the right hand side of this and mount this guy somewhere over in this area on the passenger side. All right, so this is what I ended up with. It's following the same routing as everything else under there. Split off to the right. Come over here and tuck that all in there. And then I've got the other end so it can come up, plug into it wherever I decide to put it. So the only connection that's left to do now is attaching the ground somewhere. And behind this carpet is the panel that covers the engine that I was thinking about attaching it to, but now that I look down here, there seems to be a bolt that holds the handbrake on that touches the frame down there. So I'm thinking about just tucking it right under there. So that is just a 13mm bolt. There's the nut. All right, this kit didn't come with any black ends here, so I had to use a red one, which I don't like, but I'm gonna loop it on there and tighten this nut back down on it. All right, that is grounded down there now. So we just have to hook this up to our head unit, hook everything else up, and put it back in there. I will spare you the details on that and fast forward to it all put back together. All right, ready to connect the battery now. So I just went ahead and added this one to my loop. And I'm going to throw the battery back in, connecting the positive first, and then the negative, and we're going to test this thing out. All right, got it hooked up to the positive terminal now, and put this fuse that came with the kit in the middle. So just cut this wire, attached both ends to this, and when you insert your wire in, make sure you leave this part on your wire so you can slide it back up. And tighten it over here. But wait, just when I thought we were done, I'm going to need one more wire. This came with the wiring kit, and it's actually 2 wires, so I'm just going to peel it apart and use one of these, because we need something to run from the middle one here. You can see is labeled remote. So I'm going to need to be able to run this all the way back to the head unit for the remote turn on line, and merge it in with that line, because when that line gets signal, it will turn the amp on, so the amp doesn't stay on the whole time running the battery down. So whenever the head unit turns on, it will turn the amp on. So I'll just separate this line here and peel it down. So I'm going to do this and not record it at the same time because it is a tight space. But if you want to know what I'm doing here, about 1 hour into my head unit install video, I do the exact same thing with this wire here, so you can see it. So I'm just going to take a box cutter and cut back some of the insulation on here. I'm going to wrap this around it, solder it on, put some electrical tape around it, and tighten it up with a zip tie so it doesn't get pulled loose or the tape doesn't get moved around. All right, that's just to show you the insulation cutaway. All right, that didn't take long. There is our connection, electrical tape and zip tie. Okay, this is really our moment of truth. I just pushed this back in. I haven't attached it or buttoned anything up yet. We got our sub here, still upside down. I plugged our power in, so let me find the key. So let's take our key and turn on some power. You can turn this off. Okay, the unit came on. That is a good sign. All right, well, when this comes on, my Filmic app connects to it instead of my microphone, so we're going back to camera audio for a minute here, and since power was out, I got to go back through this to English. Yes. And oh, what's this? You can't see it, but we have a green power light over here now. So that's a good sign. Let's go to and pick a station. Alright, so that is a very good sign. It is working. So I'm going to do some simple stuff like flip it over on its side, put the console and everything back, and I'll show you the finished product. Okay, I just wanted to give you one last look under here to show you how we tidied up the wires. So we got our power going through the firewall to our battery, and then we have our RCA in line right here. And I think it is a really clean looking install. So we have everything set up here again, and our amp is right back here. Our wires all go up under this little side panel into our center console, and the very last thing I'm going to have to do, I think, is run a screw through here to hold the amp in place. But right now I'm just going to drive around and take a little test drive. Alright guys, that's it. Hope it was helpful. Please like and subscribe to the video, and more Boxster content is coming your way.